Today we are talking about the transgender perspective, or at least my transgender perspective. Imagine living life through a lens, except of a camera, except everything you see with that camera is out of focus. So no matter how hard you try to focus the camera, it always looks off. You can see the thing with your eye, and it looks one way, and you hear from other people what the things that you're looking at through the camera look like. But no matter what you do, it doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. It's out of focus. And the transgender perspective is imagine looking through life through a lens where everything doesn't look right. It doesn't feel right. You just know that inherently how you go through your life doesn't make sense. And so this is my experience for a very, very large part of my life. Inherently, I knew that the life that I was living, the experiences that I was supposed to be having, they didn't feel right to me. I didn't know why they didn't feel right. I just knew inherently that I wasn't this thing, and that everything was out of focus, and it was, I didn't realize that it was the lens inherently that was the wrong lens. So this kind of goes back into this concept of like I was living through the lens of, for a long time, a heterosexual man. And I just knew it didn't feel right. I knew inherently that my peers, my guy friends, my dad, all the men that I saw existing to the world, how they perceived themselves, how they interacted with the world, from how they spoke to women to how they spoke to each other, how they carried themselves, how they interacted with the world. And I just was like, this does not feel right to me at all. I never threw a punch. It's just one example, but never, not even once, never threw a punch. When the guys talked about the girls in those really weird ways, I was like, I didn't know what to do. Just didn't feel right. And so then I kind of heard this word transgender, and I was like, whatever. Those people, they were different than I was. They were super effeminate. They were this and that, and they were attracted to men. And I was like, well, that's not me, so I guess that's not me. So, but then, ever so slightly, I kind of figured out that those things that I attributed to being trans were just one component or one way of being trans. And so eventually, yes, I did figure out that I was trans, case in point. And then, like a miraculous miracle, everything was in focus. All of a sudden, when I changed the lens and I saw myself through this new lens, everything felt right. And it felt so quickly and so effortlessly. And that's, for a lot of reasons, why I always found that once I figured it out, I was like, oh, everything makes sense now. And although I didn't know it all, although I wasn't the person that I am now, at least for that moment in time and during that time as I was growing and becoming this person, I started to see finally what comfort felt like, what a lack of dysphoria felt like, what seeing the world through this lens and was the right lens for me, and how I finally felt at home. And although I had to change my body, and although I had to do a lot of stuff to get to this place, inherently I knew that through this lens, my life was finally going to make sense. And this brings me to my next point, is getting to have lived a life through different lenses. And this is something that I think trans people get to do. And, a lot of people talk about how there's so many negatives associated with it. Of course there are. I'd had to live like my life, like one way for a very long time. And I had to go through this transition and blah, 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 blah. But now I look back and I think, wow, I really got to see another side, another thing. Last night, Madison and I were kind of talking, and I was kind of saying how, like, I just wish I was born a cis woman, and then I would never have had these things. And, she kind of said, well, you wouldn't have been this person. You would have been a totally different person. You would have been a 49-year-old cis woman, and you probably wouldn't have been able to do the things that you've done and had the experiences. And, and I looked back at it, I was like, yeah, you're right. There is a lot of really, really good things that have come because I had to struggle. I had to work. I had to, I probably wouldn't have been 6'2". I'll tell you that for free. So I guess it comes down to this realization that this different perspective that I had, this time in my life where I was forced to have this different perspective and try to see the world from that perspective. It's really allowed me a really big gift, I would say. I am so easily able to see somebody in a way that they probably have never been seen before, and understand and maybe have empathy for a different experience and a different perspective than they would have had otherwise. Um, and so I guess having this, different perspectives has given me a beautiful gift in a way. And I can only say, as much as the struggle was real and as much as it was all worth it, um, there is this really lovely silver lining to having this different perspective for such an extended period of time. If you transition when you're 6 years old, did you really have it? But I started transitioning at 43. So like it was a very, very different experience for me. And so I really got to live that life. And that's why it kind of feels a lot like I've lived two really distinct lives. And that in and of itself is a beautiful gift. So I am very thankful for that, and very thankful for that, to have had that experience, because it has molded me into the person that I am. You think of a diamond, it's just a piece of coal under an intense amount of pressure over an extended period of time, and that makes it this beautiful thing. And really, it kind of does feel like that to a large degree. Not to say that I'm a diamond, but that the hardships, the difficult things, the things that I had to go through, they have allowed me some really nice gifts that I can now take in my current life and apply to myself and to others. One of my best friends said, "You're so generous and so graceful to other people. You give them grace even when they don't deserve it, but you never give yourself grace." And I took that lesson to heart a long time ago now, and I have tried to give myself grace as I give to other people. So, with that being said, please give yourself grace, because if you treat yourself like your best friend, um, it's a really easy way to love yourself. So, a couple of perspectives here, and happy to be here. And I am so, so incredibly blessed to have the life that I have. And there is only, it's all I've got, and I'm going to run with it as fast as I possibly can. So, with that being said, bye.